Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, happily ever after. Let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see if anything of interest comes out of my face. By the way, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. Let's watch.
Go. While I was younger, I sucked my mom's. I play with it. I suck it. I breastfed till I was about 9 years old, but it's not something that is common in my culture. I believe it's something personal.
All right, interesting. I'm guessing that there's a lot of reactivity to this statement from him. I don't know. But he is saying that he is a booze man because he was breastfeeding until he was 9 years old with his mother. He also describes a little bit about his behavior, playing with it, that sort of thing. And he says in his culture that is unusual. I'm glad he explained that because I'd be having that question mark. Now, I'm guessing there's a lot of people that will be shocked by that, will be grossed out by that will say, ew, or will shame that. And I'll tell you, from just that detail, there's nothing that we can say as to the pathology about that. It's certainly unusual. I'll take his word for it. It's unusual in his culture. It's definitely unusual in the United States to breastfeed until you're 9 years old. But it happens. There are families that will choose to do that. And we tend in our culture to sexualize everything. And when we look at something, we hear about someone, I was talking last week about Jovi and family criticizing Yara for having a child sleeping in the bed. And I think one of the reasons why people don't want children sleeping in the bed with the parents is because our minds are in the gutter and we're always sexualizing everything. There are other reasons why people avoid that. They want to get better sleep at night. They are worrying about SIDS or suffocation, or they want to have parent intimate time. So there are other reasons for sure. But anyway, getting back to breastfeeding, it could be a problem if you decided to breastfeed until 9, but it also might not be a problem. There's just not enough information. I've actually worked with some, again, it's not typical, but I've worked with some parents in my clinical practice where, I don't know if it was 9, but it was definitely older than the typical, maybe 5 years old. And I don't remember the research off the top of my head, but there's a fair amount of research demonstrating that it isn't detrimental to the child. Now, it can be detrimental partially because, or at least not maybe entirely because of the way society sees that. If the 5-year-old goes to school in kindergarten and says, I breastfeed at home, and then he gets bullied or made fun of, or he hears people making fun of him or something, then that can be detrimental. But that's not his fault. That's not the mom's fault or the fault of the practice. That's the fault of stigma. The same we would have for trans kids or gay people, relationships where they are stigmatized. Age difference actually tend to experience harder times because they are being ostracized, not because there's something inherently wrong with what they're doing. So we don't want to blame the people for that and pathologize that. We want to pathologize our reaction to it. So we have to be careful when we react to things like that. Now, you can say to yourself, that's not something I would want to do. If, with my kids, I wouldn't want to breastfeed past a certain age. When I was a kid, I wouldn't want to breastfeed with my mom past a certain age. That's okay. You could even say, in my family, I wouldn't want that, or I wouldn't want to see it or something. But what people do, parenting-wise in their homes, if it's not harming anyone, then what's the problem? Now, there could be a problem, though. When we hear about a 9-year-old breastfeeding, it raises red flags. It doesn't mean necessarily something goes wrong, but it does raise some red flags. Red flags of some things going on with the mom regarding, she has a hard time literally weaning her children, because there's that point where you have to disappoint your children. Maybe it was hard for her to do that. Maybe he had an interesting relationship with his mom. Again, I don't want to say that. I want to be clear that there's no data for that. There's a tiny red flag of that. Is there something going on with him when he was young that made it hard for him to be soothed, and the mom decided to use that as a way of soothing him. There's just a lot of questions, and I'm guessing we're not going to get a lot of answers. Now, the other thing is regardless of whether we see it as pathological or not, the parenting practice up until he was 9 years old, might that have played a role in his development of a sexual attraction, sexual preferences? Yeah, certainly. And there's lots of incidents like this. We don't like to usually think about this as adults because we don't like to sexualize children for good reason. But there's a lot of research pointing at, and certainly anecdote, about people early in life experiencing early sexual attraction and having that become something that persists throughout their life. Whether it be, you use your imagination, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. Now, of course, the next thing people say is, ew, it was his mom. Well, a lot of our intimacy, a lot of our experience with touch and safety with other people first begins with people in our family, and that's okay. You could almost, one analogy that we can identify, and it's hard to know human motivation, it's hard to know exactly what's going on with us, but it seems quite possible that because we would kiss or suckle with our parents, that we will associate our mouths with intimacy and closeness with attachments. And so when we decide to date or we get married or during a wedding ceremony, we will kiss. Why do we do that? Because if aliens look down on us, they'd say, why are you doing that? And we would say, well, it's just what you do. It feels good. Why does it feel good? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do something else? Well, it seems quite possible that it's because of our early experiences with our mouths and touch and satiation and intimacy and safety. We shouldn't look at that and go, ew, it's just a part of being human. There's a lot of things about being human that are interesting, and we don't have to stigmatize or pathologize or sexualize, over-sexualize, or ew-ize every little bit of it.
Put it on Skylar's egg.
Hey, one of the goofballs is wearing a Seattle Seahawks jersey. Russell Wilson, all the way across the world. Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. All right.
Yeah.
That's all. You ship it out.
I don't masturbate. It's against my religion. Is there no other way?
We are not the doctors,
I can't masturbate now. I've never done it before.
All right, interesting. So he's saying that he has never masturbated before. I'm wondering if people are reacting to that one too. I'm guessing that maybe even the goofballs, as Angela puts it, are skeptical of that. It's quite possible. A lot of people have never done it before. Research demonstrates that. Now, there's no way to know for sure. You're asking people to self-report. So it's one of those aspects of human behavior that we can't really be quite sure of. The other thing is that maybe he has before and he is not saying he has. Why? Because we stigmatize things and we will look down on people for various reasons. I don't know about their culture, but certainly in the United States, we have a sex-negative culture and we will shame people for it, and we will say that you're not a real man if you can't get a woman, that kind of thing. So maybe that's a reason if he were to be covering that up, but I'll take his word for it.
I really never masturbated before because there's no pleasure in it, and it's also against my religion, which is a Christian. It's a sin, but it depends on the individual. In Nigeria, people masturbate. Most guys, they do it, but me personally, I don't.
Okay, so he's addressing, I think, a lot of people's skepticism. He's saying, no, people do in Nigeria, but I don't. It's against my religion, and I think he also said he doesn't enjoy it. And yeah, it's quite possible. I'm wondering if people believe him, but I don't see any reason why I would not believe him. And he seems like the sort of guy, given his openness about sexuality, that he probably would say, maybe? I don't know. The other thing I'll say is that these shows, reality TV shows, are invasive, and the cast members, I think, have every right to push back and say, I don't want to talk about that. And if he feels that's an invasive question and doesn't feel like he has the ability to push back, and he's just like, oh, look, I don't want to get into that, so I'm just going to say this other thing, I think cast members are entitled to that too.
Me, a Nigerian girl, in order for me to masturbate, I refuse it because I don't want to cheat on my wife. Not anymore. So,
Wait, when did you cheat on your wife?
remember the first...
I will say the language here I'm finding problematic. So the friends are saying that we are going to offer you a woman to help you with getting your sperm. And he is saying, I refuse the offer of a woman, like their possessions, like they can just grab some woman and say, hey, do this. And she would say yes to that. I doubt that that's true. So I just want to point that out. That language isn't sitting well with me.
And this is your future.
After thinking about it, I really do want to go see the sperm doctor so they can test my sperm and send it to the US. Because there are several things working against me for I and Angela to have a baby together.
Yeah, several things, including whether or not she wants to have a kid. And 2, your plan is to have the daughter donate her egg, which she has refused to do also. Unless I missed something where she completely did a 180, she was adamant that she was not going to participate in any of this fertility effort with Michael and Angela. So yeah, there's a lot of things working against you, for sure.
So recently I met Buddy, Peter, and Adi.
Who is that? That better not be the goofballs, Michael.
Baby, they are.
I thought we had a clear understanding about the goofballs. Now I see why you were being an ass to me.
So I want to point out, again, another sign of an abusive relationship, as we might conceptualize it in my field, is preventing the victim with respect to their family and friends. If you cut them off from outside influence, then you can have greater control over that person. Now, why do people do that? Why do people exert control? Often in relationships, it's because they're trying to gain attachment security through extremely self-destructive and other destructive ways on other people. So I just want to point that out. And there's nothing wrong with not liking your significant other's friends or thinking of them as a negative influence or something. And you want to talk directly to your significant other, just being like, so I'm concerned there's something about your friends that threaten me, that I feel afraid in this way. And often what the Michaels of the world can say is, you don't have anything to worry about. I love you. Yeah, they say bad stuff sometimes, but I don't listen to them. I'm on your side. Or they'll say, I don't think you have a clear picture of what my friends are like. I think you think of them as a threat, but they're not really a threat. They don't. They're pro our relationship, and they don't try to break us up. So I'll just point that out.
And talking back to me is because you've been around the goofball. I knew it was something.
No, I only met them one time. And now, that's it. Let me explain what happened, okay?
And instead of Michael saying something like, hey, I have my friends, and they're my friends, and, that you have said some really awful things to them in the past, and maybe them reciprocated, but that doesn't mean they're still not my friends. But you don't need to worry about that because I still love you and all that kind of stuff. Instead of saying that, he says, no, I only saw them once. That's not a good sign.
Maybe I should go to the fertility clinic to get my sperm tested and freeze it, then ship it to US.
What the hell? Get your sperm.
They'll freeze it, fertilize it with the egg, which Scala will might
She's
give
not
us.
going to give us her freaking egg, Michael.
Right. That's what I was saying. I think you have an assumption here, and we've been seeing this from the beginning, is that now I will say to remind us all that for Michael, and in his culture, it's extremely important that he has a child, which is totally fine if you have that value. Why would you marry someone or even date someone of Angela's age that might make it difficult for that to happen? but he did. And he has been really trying. He keeps the way he exhibits his defenses is that he is in denial of his reality, and he keeps hammering on, this will work. We will do this with your daughter, with Skyla. We will do this. We will do that. And a lot of people keep pushing back on that. And Angela has even said things like, I don't even know if I want to do any of that. I don't even know if I want kids. But Michael just keeps hammering on that. So it's unfortunate that he moved forward in a relationship from the beginning without really thinking this through.
Let's have a baby. I didn't do all this to have a baby. I'm going to enjoy this body I'm getting.
Baby, I've waited all this while. I know time is not on our side. What if I didn't get there in another year? I mean, we can start something now. I'm just trying to find out what the options are.
No problem with that. Now, if you're Angela and you're thinking, well, I don't really want to do that, then you just say that. You say, and really I think it's on Angela to say, Michael, I have to level with you, because I think this is where she's coming from. I don't really want to have another kid. There's really no option here. Now, I don't know why personally they don't think about adoption. I mean, you can have, maybe that's outside the value of Michael's culture. I don't know, but that's certainly an option. But anyway, so what is very common in relationships, what you'll see in any relationship, instead of leveling with someone and saying, look, this is where I'm coming from. I've changed my mind and I'm sorry, because in the past, Michael, I gave you the impression that I was on board with, as Angelo put it, toting another baby. But that ship has sailed for the most part, or I definitely don't want to think about it now, given all the changes that are going on in my body, and I'm still recovering medically. So I don't know if this is ever going to happen. Maybe we can revisit it in a while, but it's not looking very good. And I am sorry, because I gave you, Michael, the impression that I was more up for it. And maybe I was in the past, but I'm just not. So I've changed my mind, and I'm sorry. And just leveling with someone in that way. And then you can deal with that. Because if that's true, you've communicated that, then Michael can know, oh, okay, well, that's the landscape. Now, I think Angela doesn't want to say that because she's worried that he's going to leave her and be with someone else so that he can have a child. So as a way to obscure all that, you will try to tear him down. And I think that's what she's about to do. She's going to try to make fun of him or argue against his points or try to make him look stupid in the fantasy that if I make him look stupid, he'll get rid of that, or at least it'll distract him for a time, and he won't talk about this anymore, and I'll be able to retain my preferences and my attachment with him.
Michael, you can go to that clinic if you want, and you can sit there and masturbate, but you'll do it with me on the phone.
I'm surprised Angela agreed to do the consultation with me. And I don't know if Angela is fully committed to this idea or she just want to shut me up.
So I'm having a hard time understanding what's happening. So he's going to submit a sample to test if he is fertile. Okay. But there's no other movement or pathway to having a child that's being discussed. So maybe for him, it's like, well, this is the one thing I can do to maybe get the ball rolling. Okay. Plus, there's no reason to believe that he has a problem with that. So I don't know why you would test it necessarily, but whatever. And then Angela's like, well, you know what? In a ridiculing way, saying, you're going to have to masturbate, and you don't masturbate. So how are you going to do that? And I guess we'll find out if YouTube flags the word masturbate, since I keep saying it. But for Michael, he is saying, yeah. And then she says, you're going to bring me into that room with you. As a pun, I don't understand. She seemed to be saying, you better bring me into the room, because I don't understand. Does she think of it as cheating? What's happening?
But it will be difficult for me to masturbate since I've never done it before, and I think Angela may make fun of me while I masturbate. But I know she is not going to let me do it on my own because she's so jealous.
Okay, that was one of the possibilities, which is not uncommon. Some people will have those jealousies that they don't want you to masturbate because it feels like I mean, it's hard to understand this, but it feels like cheating, I suppose. I guess particularly if you're looking at porn or something. But that's why she wants to be there. Okay, so she's demanding to be there, and he's agreeing to it. So, it's their relationship. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. It is last call, I believe. By the time this episode comes out, you should have some time to send us a card for our 13th anniversary show. It's a live show on August 7th. We're doing a 13-hour straight YouTube live stream. If you want to send us a card or something, you can send it to 10002, that's 3 zeros, Aurora Avenue North, Suite 36, number 214, Seattle, Washington, 98133-9334. And take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.